Hey, how's it going, everyone? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from whichever part of the world you're tuning in from. Hope you're doing fantastic. Introduce yourself in the comments, say hi, let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from, and I'll get today's session started in a couple of seconds. And as usual, let me know if you can see me and hear me okay, and my audio and video is all good. Today, what I'm going to be speaking about is strategies to win at your job interviews. Very important topic. And feel free to share your thoughts and your comments about interviews in the comments. And yeah, looks like I am live. I think the notification just went out. So feel free to introduce yourself in the comments, folks. And we'll get this thing started shortly. All right. So again, today's topic, and for those of you joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Dean Kulaweera. So I've worked in the staffing industry for about 8+ years, specifically as an IT recruiter, and I recently made the transition into job search coaching. So every week, Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, you're gonna find me here live, sharing various job search tips, tactics, strategies, practical stuff based on my experience working on the front lines as a recruiter, that all of you folks can utilize in your job search, right? So again, if you haven't done so already, mark your calendars. Every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I go live right here. I go live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter / Periscope every week to help you folks out in your job search, right? So don't be shy. Introduce yourself in the comments. Let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from, and we'll get this thing started shortly. And for those of you who haven't done so already, if you're an active job seeker, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter, which I release every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time zone. I send out free job search strategies every week. So feel free to tune in. Sign up for that at my website, which is www.dkglobaltalent.com/newsletter. I send out a weekly strategy every Monday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time zone. So you're off to a great start to your job search. And any questions you have about interviews or about your job search in general, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Looks like I have a bit of a shy crowd today, but feel free to introduce yourself in the comments, folks. And any questions you have regarding the job search, happy to answer any questions today. And also any other questions outside of interviews as well. Happy to cover that. So one more thing before I get started. For those of you who are in the Brazilian community, I'm actually presenting at a Brazilian community here in Toronto. I'm presenting for and the name of the group was the North Project Managers, which is basically a Brazilian Canadian group of project managers. They have a group over here, and I'm presenting this evening. And I'm going to be speaking about I'm going to be sharing some resume tips as well as how to network effectively in 2021. So if you're part of that group, I'll see you tonight. It's going to be at 7:00, and that's the North Project Manager. So shout out to that group. If you're a part of that group, I'll be seeing you later tonight for their event. I believe it's invite only, or it's only for members of that group. So if you're part of that group, I'll see you tonight. Definitely looking forward to it. We got Roya in the house. Roya, good to see you here. Thanks so much for tuning in. We got Sundas here. Hey, Sundas, good to see you here, and thanks so much. Always great to have you here, and hope you get value out of this session. And we got Brijesh here all the way from India. Good to see you here, Brijesh. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right, so folks, you definitely want to be taking notes on this session. All right, so this session I'm going to be talking about strategies that you need to be utilizing in order to succeed in your interviews. Right. Now, I'm not going to be talking about tactical stuff today. Today's going to be strategic stuff, like the strategy. So your takeaways from today's session is you need to be able to, after this session, take away these strategies and then formulate what you're going to be doing to implement these strategies that I'm going to be speaking about in today's session. A few more shout outs. We got Sakshad here. Sakshad at this side, currently a senior consultant at an MNC. I want to switch in product management. How should I go about it, including changes in the resume? Okay, great. So Sakshad, I'm going to get to your question during the Q&A part. So definitely hang in there. I'm going to get to your question shortly. We got Gaurav in the house. Gaurav, always good to see you here, all the way from Saga. And we got Pankaj in the house as well. Pankaj, good to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right, so I'm going to present the topic. And then in the meantime, folks, any questions you have along the way, put them in the comments. I'm going to get into the questions after I finish presenting and we get into the Q&A part, all right? And also in the Q&A part, I will share a link so you folks can tune in and call in as a live caller to ask me your questions as well. All right. So anyway, today's topic, let's get right into it. Strategies to win at your job interviews. Now, I'm not by any means guaranteeing folks that you're going to implement all these things and you're going to 100% get every single job offer for every single interview you're attending. Not saying that, but this is going to put you in a stronger position to go for that win, right? It's all about positioning, right? And you need to be strategic in your approach to interviews. So I'm going to be sharing eight tips, 8 strategies for your interview. So be prepared to take notes. And any questions you have, feel free to put in the comments, whether it's related to this topic or anything job search related. Happy to answer your questions. All right. Now, point number 1 in regards to your interviews. Understand that the interview is not about you, folks. This is extremely important. And I know this might kind of catch some of you off guard when I say that. Tip number 1, or strategy number 1, you need to keep in mind, right? Understand that the interview is not about you. It's not about you going in there and just talking about each and every single aspect of your experience, all of your projects. The hiring team is not there to simply listen about every single detail about yourself and your professional experience, folks. All right. Now, let me elaborate on that a little bit further. The interview is not about you, but it is about the intersection between what you bring to the table and the problem that the organization is facing. All right. So again, if you're taking notes, you want to write that down. The interview is not just about you going in there and talking about yourself. It's about the intersection between what you bring to the table and what pain points or problems or project the organization is experiencing. It's about that intersection. Now, the reason why I wanted to emphasize this is the biggest mistake I've seen so many candidates make, and great people, by the way, I've seen great people make this mistake. And people from entry level all the way up to senior level individuals, right? Like with 8, 10, 15 years experience. They go in and they simply start talking about themselves, all of their projects, all of their skills, all of their experiences. And it's almost like a sprayed out approach where you're just shooting bullets in the dark, hoping that something's going to hit. But the fact is, it's not just about you simply talking about each and every aspect of your experience, folks, right? You have to be very, very, very much honed in on, hey, what am I on mute? Sorry, have you guys not been able to hear me yet? I apologize for that. Can everybody hear me now? All right, sorry about that, folks. All right, so apparently I was on mute, so major fail right there. I apologize for that. So let me start all over again. All right. So for those of you tuning in, today what I'm going to be speaking about is how to take a strategic approach to your interviews. All right. And sorry, I'm not sure what happened there with going mute and all that, but I think that should be fine now. So my apologies for that. All right, Stefan says not since spraying the resume part. All right, okay. So let me rewind just a little bit, folks. My flow got messed up there, so my apologies for that. I'm not sure what happened. All right, so what I was saying is, and let me start from the beginning. All right, the interview is not just about you, folks. All right, do not think that the point of the interview is for you just to go in there and just start spraying a whole bunch of stuff about yourself, hoping that something's going to hit. Let's take a more strategic approach. The interview is about the intersection between what you bring to the table and what the organization's pain points are, and what troubles and what project they got going on. It's about that intersection. So it's only about those aspects of your background. So you, in preparing for your interviews, what you got to do is you got to figure out before you go in, hey, what do I bring to the table to this project, to this organization that is of relevance to their pain points or their project or whatever problems they got going on. So in order for you to do this, now, most of the time, folks, all you're going to have is a job description for you to analyze and kind of figure that out, right? But if at all possible, you need to, if you have a point of contact within the organization, right? Maybe you have someone in HR, or maybe someone working there, or you got like a relationship with the hiring manager, or maybe you're being represented by an agency, right? By a staffing agency. You need to, as much as possible, figure out what are the key things they're looking for in an ideal candidate. You need to figure that out. And then in preparing your, how you're going to be running through all of your positions and all of that stuff that you bring to the table, focus on the intersection, right? Focus on the relevance. Relevance is key, folks. And this is exactly why a lot of you have probably experienced going into an interview, and from your perspective, you feel like, hey, everything went fantastic. I was smooth in my pitch. I was talking about myself. I was talking about my projects. I was explaining everything perfectly fine. And then ultimately at the end, you feel confused because the hiring team's not getting back to you, or they just don't see you as a fit, or they come back with a rejection notice, right? And the reason why this happens, folks, is because of this very reason. It's because you have not focused on that intersection between what you bring to the table and what challenges, pain points, or whatever project the organization is facing. All right. So you need to make sure, if not before, when you're preparing for the interview, on the interview itself, you need to, as quickly as possible, figure out what that intersection is between what you bring to the table and what the organization requires in an ideal candidate. So always remember that. So you need to be, so for homework, you need to figure out, what can I do to figure out these things before my interviews, or even on the interview. Sometimes you won't be able to figure this out before the interview, folks, unfortunately, right? You might have to do some, and I'm going to get into this later. You got to do some probing, investigating during the interview to figure this out, so you can highlight those relevant aspects and show that intersection between what you bring to the table and what the organization is looking for, right? All right, so that's strategy number one. Understand the interview is not about you. It's about the intersection between what you bring to the table and what pain points and challenges the organization is facing, resulting in them having a need to bring in someone with your skills and your expertise. Always remember this. Very important in formulating your interview strategy, all right? All right, so tip number two, strategy number two, all right? Do not treat it like an interview. Do not look at it as an interview, folks. Treat it like a discovery conversation. All right, my PM friends out there, my BA friends out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, if those of you who are BAs or PMs, if you can put a brief definition in the comments, just in case the non-tech or non-PM, non-BA people don't know what that is. Feel free to share in the comments your thoughts about what a discovery conversation is. And for those of you who don't know, a discovery conversation, what I mean is, hey, that's that conversation where you're simply trying to figure out, it's like an exploratory conversation where you're figuring out what exactly the pain points, the challenges are that the other individual is, or the other party is facing, right? And if you're, I know I mentioned BAs and PMs, but this pretty much relates to any profession or whatever field that you're in. In that initial conversation, when you're figuring out, right, how you can go about providing a solution, you're not going to go into the solution right away, folks. You're going to first have a discovery conversation where you're uncovering, investigating, probing, discovering what exactly the problem is, or what exactly the details regarding the project is, what the end goals are, what are the challenges, what are the pain points. So, folks, you need to treat the interview, you need to look at the interview, you need to go in with that mindset, right? That this is not an interview. This is actually not a job interview. This is a discovery conversation. Put on your discovery hat, put on your investigator hat, go into the interview, and that's how you need to approach the conversation, all right? It's a discovery conversation. You need to, because you first and foremost, and the reason why this is important is, you need to understand the problem. So this is why so many of you are going in there, you're pitching yourself, you're saying, hey, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, which is great. You definitely want to do that. But if you're not uncovering the problem, the key challenges, the key pain points, you're not approaching it like a discovery conversation, and therefore you're not really able to hit those key points that you can then present yourself as, hey, okay, you're experiencing XYZ. This is what I can do to provide a solution to address XYZ. And if you're not approaching this conversation like a discovery conversation, you're not going to be able to hit those points, folks. All right. So you need to make sure that this is a two-way conversation. Yeah. So Mohammed says, a great comment here, by the way. Mohammed says, change one-way interview to an interactive discussion session. Exactly, Mohammed. So Mohammed, hit the nail right on the head. This is exactly what I'm saying, folks. This is not a one-way conversation where you just go in, you sit down, and then you just answer a whole bunch of questions. It needs to be a two-way discussion, just like Mohammed is saying. That's what I mean by, treat it like a discovery conversation. In the same way they're asking you questions, you need to be asking them questions as well, so you can better understand what challenges they're facing. And guess what? When you have better understanding of the problem, the challenges, the pain points, their motivation for hiring in the first place, you're better able to reach that thing that we discussed in point number 1, right? Which is relevance, right? Finding the intersection between what you bring to the table and the challenges they're facing. So strategy number 2 you need to formulate is, hey, go in with the mindset that this is a discovery conversation where you're discovering, probing, investigating the challenges that they're facing. And stop looking at them as a hiring team, folks. Don't look at them as a hiring team or as a bunch of interviewers. Look at them as a customer, as a client, because in fact, that is what they are, right? And if you were meeting, whatever your profession is, by the way, if you were meeting with a client, a customer, or someone who potentially needs your help, the first thing you folks would be doing in any other scenario is you would be asking questions to understand their problem. And I don't care if you're a C-level executive, or I don't care if you're like a, scuba diver. If you're a scuba diver, right, you're interviewing for a scuba diving role, you need to understand what the purpose of this scuba diving project is. Why do you want me to scuba dive? Why do you want me to, dive into the ocean? What are we looking for? What problem are you looking to solve? Are we looking for something specific? Are we just collecting evidence for something? Are we collecting minerals, or are we, getting specimens for fish? And if so, why? What are we planning to do with it? This is going to allow you to better navigate the conversation, right? I know I gave like some random example there with scuba diving. I don't know why I thought of scuba diving, but hey, it is what it is. But the point here, folks, is it doesn't matter what it is. In any other situation, all of you would be investigating and uncovering the why, right? The why. And what I'm saying here is treat it like a discovery conversation. Put your investigator's hat on in the interview. And as much as they definitely are going to be asking you questions, and they might be controlling the conversation from that standpoint, you need to also ask your own questions to better understand the project, the problem, and the pain points. All right. So just wanted to hit that. Now, strategy number 3, over the course of the conversation, right? I've been talking about treating it like a discovery conversation and all that. Over the course of the conversation, you need to identify and quantify the problem. All right. So as you're probing, investigating, understanding the project, the problem that they've got going on, and all that stuff, you need to identify and quantify the core problem. What is the core problem here? Why do they really need someone for this position? You need to figure that out, folks. And this is going to help you later on in your salary negotiations as well. Now, I'm not going to cover salary negotiations in today's session. If you want my tips on salary negotiations, I did a session, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, but check out my YouTube, or check out my, probably YouTube would probably be the easiest way to find that video. But check out my YouTube channel. You're going to see that video. I covered salary negotiation. But anyway, strategy number 3, you need to identify and quantify the problem. Now, the problem is not simply, they want me to come in and they want me to, code this application. That's not the problem. The problem is something more specific. You need to probe, investigate, and discover what the actual problem is. Because you're not just being asked to come in and perform a task. No employer is going to pay you to simply perform a task. They're paying you to perform a task that achieves some kind of an outcome, some kind of an end result, or something of that sort. And your task at the interview, folks, in order to really treat this as a strategic business conversation, is you need to figure out what that outcome that they want you to achieve is. And then you need to quantify it, right? What is it costing you not having someone in the seat right now? What is this problem costing you? What is this project costing you right now with these stalls and these holdups that are occurring? So you need to identify the problem. And secondly, you need to quantify the problem as well, right? This is very important. And this data, this information is going to be very helpful for you later on in the conversation as well. All right. Now, moving on to tip number 4. And this kind of connects with tip number 1 and 2, which I discussed. You need to highlight relevance, folks, relevant skills, relevant experiences, and relevant projects. All right. So it's not about you going in there and talking about each and every one of your projects, and no matter how impressive. You want to first and foremost give preference to relevant projects. All right. Relevant projects, relevant experience, relevant expertise. If I'm a project manager, for example, and I have experience working in various industries, I've worked on retail projects, e-commerce projects, logistics projects, and I'm going in for an interview with an organization, and their end client or the project they've got going on is a retail related project, guess what, folks? I'm going to put my focus on on the projects I've completed in the retail space. That's what I'm going to put my focus on, because that's what's going to be most relevant to the organization, right? Because the project they want to get you on for is a retail project. They want to hear about your retail experience first and foremost as a project manager, right? So you need to first and foremost focus on relevance. That's how you're going to get their attention. That's how, first of all, you're gonna get their attention. And secondly, that's how you're going to keep their attention as well, by focusing on relevance. So relevant projects, relevant experience, relevant skills, relevant certifications, relevant expertise. All right, because if you're not focusing on the relevance, that's how you end up with that situation where you think everything went well and fantastic, and yeah, they were great, they were smiling, they seemed impressed, and they're not getting back to me. They've chosen to pass on me. Why is that? Well, it's because you weren't able to keep their attention, because you did not focus on relevance, right? And they zoned out, because you're talking about all of your projects, which might very well be very impressive to yourself. But if you really want to get their attention and keep people's attention, folks, you got to focus on relevance, right? Again, it goes back to that intersection between what you bring to the table and what they need in an ideal candidate. You want to focus on that, right? So again, I want to stress this again. Strategy number 4, tip number 4, always highlight, always focus first and foremost on relevance, relevant skills, relevant expertise, relevant projects, relevant certifications, relevance. It's got to be all about relevance, folks. All right. And I do see some questions in the comments, so feel free to keep the questions coming, folks. I'm not ignoring your questions, but I'm going to get into the Q&A part shortly. All right. So hang in there. Let me just finish with these points. Now, tip number 5, and I've kind of already alluded to this when I was talking about quantifying the problem. You need to identify what the specific ROI they're looking to achieve as a result of hiring you. All right. Why do you want to hire someone for this seat? What is the ROI you're looking for from this individual? What are the outcomes? What are the results? You need to figure out what that is, right? Because that's what you're going to use to position yourself as the ideal candidate for the position, right? Because you need to understand first and foremost what the problem is, what's the problem costing them, and thirdly, what is the ROI they're looking to achieve, right? What is the ROI? What is the actual business outcome that they want to achieve? Organizations are not handing out offer letters for fun, folks. All right, whether it's a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization, they're looking for some kind of a business outcome or some kind of a return on investment. All right, and that return on investment could be cost savings, could be increase in revenue, could be time, whatever it is. Usually, it comes down to saving money or increasing revenue. That's what it usually comes down to. So you need to figure out what that ROI is, and that's how you position yourself as someone who's going to be, helping them achieve that outcome and that ROI, the return on investment. This is how you need to, and this is again the importance of asking those strategic, investigative, discovery questions, so you can determine, these other aspects, right? Like, well, what's the problem costing them, and in this point, what is the ROI that they want you to achieve? Peter here says, Peter, good to have you here. Peter says, woohoo, like a crime novel. That's right. Being Poirot, Sherlock Holmes during an interview sounds interesting, and I've just filled in a career test, and one of the three top career options advised for me was a police investigator. Awesome, Peter. Yeah. So Peter, I mean, look. You do have to be pretty much like an investigator, folks, at your interviews. You need to be like a detective investigating a crime scene, right? Just like Peter is saying here. It's a great analogy, actually, Peter, right? I know you might be kind of joking here, but it's a very good analogy. It's a perfect example. You need to investigate what the client's pain points, challenges, their project. You need to investigate it like you're investigating a crime scene, right? Now, this does not mean throughout the interview, you don't want to hijack the conversation and be the one asking all the questions, because obviously they want to ask their questions, obviously, right? Because they want to find out if you're the right candidate. But in between, you got to be asking your questions as well. You need to be investigating, just like how Peter said. It's like investigating a crime scene, right? And that's how you got to look at it. So you're able to uncover these pain points, these challenges, the problem, what the problem is costing them, what the ROI they're looking for. So you can position yourself as the ideal solution. You are a solution to the problem they're facing, folks. That's how you got to position yourself, right? Now, which brings me to tip number 6, strategy number 6. You need to position yourself as a solution, as the person providing the solution, as the solution provider, All right, that's how you got to position yourself, folks. A lot of job seekers, the mistake a lot of you folks are making is you're focusing on your need for a job, and I totally get that. I completely understand that. Maybe you've been laid off. Maybe you're desperately looking to make a switch into your the new whatever new career advancement you want. I totally get that. But employers are not looking for job seekers, right? Employers are not looking for job seekers, folks. Employers are looking for problem solvers. Employers are looking for solution providers. Employers are looking for someone who can come on board, solve the problem, and get the return on investment that they're looking for. That's what you got to focus on, folks. All right. Don't make the mistake of focusing on, hey, I need a job. I'm a job seeker. I'm unemployed. I'm looking for new opportunities. Hey, I totally get that, but it doesn't mean anything to the employer. All right. And I'm telling you this as a recruiter. All right. I've recruited for multiple different types of organizations, ranging from startups all the way to large-size multinational organizations. The conversation with the hiring team, the conversations I have personally had with hiring teams, probably had hundreds of conversations over the years, has never been, hey, Dean, we need job seekers. Never heard that, folks. Never in my life as a recruiter so far. What I have heard, however, folks, is, Dean, we've got XYZ project or XYZ pain points going on. We need someone with such and such and such skill sets who can be brought in to help us out with this project, or help us bring this project to a resolution, or help us out with these problems or challenges that we're facing. That's usually what the conversation goes like, folks. So my point here is you need to focus on your ability to solve problems. All right. So for homework, you need to list out, okay, so go through your resume, all of those tasks, duties, and responsibilities that you have on your resume. I want you to actually connect that with problems that you can solve. What problems can you solve for employers, right? That's how you got to be conversing when you're at your interviews. All right. So Peter says, no joke, but a funny parallel. Yeah, absolutely, Peter. Yeah, it is definitely very serious stuff, but it's a great analogy, Peter. I really appreciate you sharing that, right? It's like you're investigating a crime scene, folks, right? Now, tip number 7, right? And as I wrap up my tips, and I have one more tip after this. Tip number 7 is you got to treat it like a business conversation, folks. Ultimately, this is a business conversation. Do not look at it as an interview. Do not look at it as an opportunity for you to go in and just talk about each and every aspect of who you are. And by the way, as a side note, yeah, your personality is definitely important. Who you are as an individual. I mean, they definitely want to make sure you're a likable person as well. I'm not saying that's not important, but the fact is, ultimately, folks, this is a business conversation. All right. They have a problem. They have some kind of challenges going on. They're trying to figure out if you're someone that can help them out with whatever problem they got going on, right? Or whatever challenges they're facing. So keep in mind, this is a business conversation. You need to treat it like a business conversation. You need to go in there, figure out. And by the way, just like I mentioned before, look at them as a customer or as a client. Your point is to go in there, talk about, uncover, investigate what problems they're facing, and then figure out, hey, what, and also figure out what's the ROI they're looking for, and then figure out what kind of a solution you can provide. You need to propose or let them know how you can provide a solution that's going to get them those problems resolved and help them achieve the return on investment they're looking to achieve. So Peter says, in my opinion, an interview is a sales business partnership negotiation. Both of you, candidate and hiring manager, need to understand each other's needs and offers. It means calculating ROI, as you mentioned, and for yourself as well, and root cause analysis. What is the core need of the hiring manager, as well as showing examples, your skills, experience, etc. Yeah, exactly, Peter, right? Yeah, and Peter, you bring up a good point, right? Folks, I know I've focused mostly on the employer's point of view, but definitely, just like Peter said, you got to figure out your own needs and ROI and stuff like that. That's definitely very important as well. Today, I'm just focusing on the employer's perspective, all right? But what Peter mentioned is absolutely true. You got to figure out your own needs and what you want in an ideal position as well. That's still extremely important. So good point there, Peter. And Peter says, yeah. So I guess we were talking about the same thing, Peter. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's a business conversation, folks. You got to treat it like a business conversation, right? Now, final tip, folks. This is extremely important. As you go about your interviews, right, you're going to notice certain objections, right? Objections, I'm going to use it in terms of the sales terminology, all right? The term objections in respect to sales means reasons that customers give as to why they cannot proceed with making a decision or making a sale or purchasing a product, solution, or service, all right? That's my definition of objection in this context. So over the course of your interviews, folks, you're going to come across, you're going to see patterns in terms of specific objections you're going to face as to why the hiring team does not want to move ahead with you. And my final tip for you is you need to take note of these common objections, and you need to prepare and strategize how you're going to address these objections. Because if you keep coming across the same objections over and over and over again, the good news is at least now you can anticipate them, right? For your next interview, for your next conversations, for other companies, other organizations. Because if you keep getting this objection, and for example, an objection might be, hey, we feel like you don't have enough cloud experience, or you don't have enough experience with XYZ technology. Maybe you keep coming across this objection consistently when you're interviewing at various organizations. So fair enough, all right? I know it's frustrating, but fair enough. But you got to write down this objection. And then your task is you got to figure out, first of all, you got to anticipate that you might be getting asked, the same objection is going to be brought up at your other interviews as well, given the fact that you keep getting this objection over and over again. Second task is, how am I going to overcome this objection, right? So you got to figure out, how am I going to overcome this objection? I keep getting told I don't have enough experience with AngularJS. I keep getting told, I don't have enough experience in retail. I keep getting told I don't have enough experience doing such and such projects. Whatever it is, if you keep seeing this pattern that you keep getting these same objections over and over again, take note of them first and foremost. And secondly, anticipate them, because chances are you might come across these objections again in the future. So now you need to prepare how you're going to respond to these objections. So at least now you can prepare for them. All right. So anyway, that was the final tip for today, folks. So hope these tips help. It'll help you have a more strategic discussion and strategic conversation. All right. And one final piece, which I forgot to mention, is you at your end, you need to also prepare your own strategic questions to ask at the end of the conversation as well, right? That are going to help you, steer the conversation into why you're the ideal candidate. And of course, you want to ask those questions that you want to know to make sure that it's the right position for you. I'm not saying don't do that. That's still very important. But our focus today, folks, is on the employer's perspective, right? So from their perspective, you got to treat this as a business conversation. You need to take a very strategic approach. You need to uncover the problems that they're facing. You need to quantify those problems. You need to figure out the business outcomes, the return on investment that they're looking for. And that's how you got to approach your interviews, folks. It's a business conversation. Treat it like a discovery conversation when you're probing, discovering, and uncovering the challenges, the pain points, and all that stuff. That's how you strategically position yourself, folks, as the most viable candidate for the position. All right. So it's not about you just going in there, guns blazing, saying, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I got this certification. I got that certification. No, it's about honing in on relevance, folks. All right. If there's one key takeaway I want you folks to take away from this is, it's not just about yourself. All right. It's not just about yourself, folks. It's about the intersection between what you bring to the table and what challenges, outcomes, and results, ROI, the organization is looking to achieve by hiring someone for the position. Focus on that intersection, folks. You're going to get more people's attention. You're going to keep their attention. And you're going to be in a much stronger position to strategically position yourself as the ideal candidate for the position. All right. So hope these tips help. I'm going to go through the questions. I'm going to go through the comments now and answer any questions. By the way, I'm going to share a link for those of you who want to ask me your question live as a live caller. I'm going to share a link in the comments because I love to communicate and interact with you folks directly one-on-one. So I'm going to share a link in the comments so you folks can call in live, or if you're shy or whatever, feel free to put your question in the comments. But if you want to call in as a live caller, make sure you have a mic set up. You can disable your camera if you don't want to be on camera. And I'd love to answer your question live, all right? So let me just quickly share the link. So I shared that in the comments, so you folks should see that link in the comments. So just make sure you have a mic connected to your computer or your phone, folks. And I'd love to answer your question live, or you can put your questions in the comments, and I'm happy to answer your questions from the comments as well. All right. So until we get any live callers, let me see what questions we have. All right. So I think Sakshad, I'm going to go back to your question. So Sakshad had a question, right? A great question, by the way. So Sakshad said, currently a senior consultant in an MNC. I want to switch in project. I'm guessing you're saying to product management, Sakshad. How should I go about it, including changes in the resume? All right. So Sakshad, what you want to do is you wanna focus on your transferable skills, right? So Sakshat, leverage what you already have, right? A lot of you folks, you think that just because you're moving into another career, hey, none of my previous experience matters. Incorrect, folks. Your previous experience thus far in your career definitely holds weight. Sakshat, you just need to focus on those transferable skill sets, right? So whatever skills you have right now that are transferable into a product management role, that's what you want to focus on. Highlight those aspects on your resume, Sakshat. Highlight those on in your conversations as well with recruiters, with hiring teams. You want to let them know, hey, yeah, I know I'm not in product management right now. I have not worked under the title of product manager. However, I have all these transferable skills that I bring to the table that are very applicable to a product management position, which is where I'm looking to build my career at this point. So long story short, Sakshat, take inventory of your transferable skills that you can leverage for a product management position and focus on those on your resume as well as in your conversations with hiring teams and with hiring managers. All right. So hope that helps, Sakshat. Great question there. And yeah, sorry about the audio being lost earlier on, folks. Apologies for that. I'm not sure why that happened, but hopefully that didn't disrupt things too bad. All right, so let's see what other questions we have here. So Rocky, we got Rocky here. Hey, Rocky, good to see you here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Rocky says, putting nice points, keep going. Appreciate that, Rocky. Hope you're doing fantastic. Mohammed shared a great point here. Change the one-way interview into an interactive discussion interview. Very important point there, folks. Great point there, Mohammed. Just had to show that again. It was a great comment. All right, so Anushree, we got Anushree. So shout out to Anushree. Thanks for tuning in, Anushree. I appreciate you watching and interacting here. So Anushree says, do you think it is a good idea to write points from projects worked in the past, match with requirements, and take it to the interview? I feel interviewer are open for it. All right, so Anushree, I'm not sure I entirely understand your question, but what I'm assuming you're saying is, I guess what I was telling Sakshat, right? I guess what you're asking is, does it make sense for you to take points from previous projects you worked in the past that are relevant to the position you're interviewing for and then present it to the interviewer? If that's what you're saying, absolutely, Anushree, you definitely want to do that, right? Just like what I said for to Sakshat. Get your transferable skills, folks, all right? Whatever experience you already have in your career, leverage that. Leverage it. It does not count for, it's not like it doesn't count for anything. Leverage relevance. Relevant skills, transferable skills, you want to focus on that. Take that leverage, use it as leverage for the position you're interviewing for. So definitely, Anushree, if that's what you meant, absolutely, I definitely agree with that. So let's see what other questions we have here. And again, folks, I'm happy to interact with you live as well. So let me share that link again. I'd love to have you folks call in as a live caller. Just make sure you got a mic so you can actually ask me your question. I'm sharing that link again in the comments. Love to have you folks call in as a live caller to ask your questions. All right. All right. So let's see what other questions we have here. I have some more questions here in the comments. So we got question here from, where is it? I missed it. Brijesh. So Brijesh has a question here. So Brijesh says, what if there are not relevant projects or domains you have worked? You are a problem solver and you want to expand your portfolio by switching the job. All right, so Brijesh, so what Brijesh is saying is, hey, Dean, all right, I get it. You saying, you got transferable skills, focus on that, blah, blah, blah. But Dean, what if we don't have relevant projects or that we can bring to the table? Well, in that case, Brijesh, you got to build your own portfolio of work. Now, this could depend, folks, on what your field or what your skill set is. But my advice, if you're in the situation that Brijesh is in, by the way, which is, it happens, right? If you don't have the relevant projects or domains that you have worked in, you need to see how you can create those experiences. You need to see how you can get that experience, right? So this is where you might want to, Brijesh, consider internships, maybe volunteer your time, right, to some organization where you can get that experience. So you can actually say, yes, I have worked on such projects. Or if you have a skill such as, for example, like a software developer, right, where you should actually be coding the types of solutions you want to be working in. So that way you can actually tell the hiring team, yeah, I haven't worked in this domain, but look, I've got a portfolio of work. Here's my GitHub link. And this shows the kind of work I can do in relation to these types of applications you want me to develop. So again, folks, this depends on your field, depends on your skill sets. You got to kind of exercise your judgment here. But if you don't have the relevant experience, you got to either create or manufacture that experience, or you got to look for opportunities where you can actually get hands-on by volunteering your time or doing an internship and getting the experience. So now you can at least have something to leverage that you can show to the interviewer or to the hiring team. All right. So great question, Bridget. Hope that helps. Let's see what other questions we have here. Let's see if we have any questions. We got Gurpreet says, great advice. Hey, thanks, Gurpreet. Good to have you here. Shout out to Gurpreet. Hey, Gurpreet's another great person to interact with. And by the way, myself and Gurpreet, we are collaborating on a boot camp for IT professionals, a job search boot camp. So if you want more information about that, reach out to myself or Gurpreet. All right. So we got Ade Banke. Hopefully, sorry if I mispronounced your name, but you're most welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Mohammed says, great insights. Thanks, Mohammed. Appreciate that. And then Gurpreet says, can I call? Yeah, Gurpreet, if you're still there, you're most welcome to call. Absolutely. But looks like that's all the questions, folks. So I'm going to wrap this up if there are no questions. So look, for those of you tuning in for the first time, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate having you join me here. So every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I go live right here on LinkedIn to help you folks out. Sorry, not just LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, also Twitter, Periscope as well. And I share job search tips every week to help you folks in your job search. For some free resources, check out my website. Right now, I have a free sample script on how to run recruiters through your resume. So feel free to grab a copy of that if you haven't done so already. It's on my website, www.dkglobaltalent.com. Make sure you download that template. It's a free script on how to run recruiters through your resume. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my newsletter. Every Monday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time zone, I release a newsletter to help set you up for a great week in your job search. So feel free to sign up for that. That's www.dkglobaltalent.com/newsletter. And hey, don't forget, folks, make sure you like and share if you found this session helpful. So make sure that you like and share if you found this session helpful, folks. Always appreciate that. I think we got a question here from Peter. So let me see if I can put. So Peter says, what if there's no mic with me if I want to call you? Dave or Leonard can be good as well. Sorry, I couldn't miss that. Yeah, if you don't have a mic, okay, I get what you're doing there, Peter. Yeah, Peter. So Peter's a bit of a comedian. Okay, I got that. All right, a good one, Peter. All right, so Peter, always good to have you on this session. But yeah, if you can get a mic, an MIC, not a person, right? Like Peter said, if you guys got a mic, I love to interact with you live. Maybe tune in next week, folks. Love to interact with you live. And Hussein says, hi, Dean. It's always nice to watch your Wednesday session. Hey, I appreciate that, Hussein. Appreciate your support. And by the way, folks, I just hit a great milestone on LinkedIn. I just reached 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for all of you who continue to follow me, support me, comment on my stuff, and like my stuff, and share my stuff. And I'm just really appreciative of all of you, which allows me to further, help more people in their job search. Right? My aim is to help the entire world in how they approach their job search, right? And I can do it with your help, with you folks who like my stuff, comment on my stuff. That's what makes it available to people maybe in other countries as well, right? And that is my goal, is to help educate planet Earth on how to approach their job search, how to think about your job search, how to approach your job search, how to win in your job search. That is my purpose. That is my mission. So every time you folks like, comment, share on my stuff, it helps me achieve that. So thank you so much for all of you who continue to interact and support me in my content. I definitely look forward to putting out more valuable content. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope this session was helpful. And remember, tune in every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone. I'm going to be right here on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter/Periscope to help you folks out in your job search, right? So thanks everyone. Keep pushing through in your job search. Stay positive. Keep taking action, all right? Have a wonderful week.